Hey guys, it's Danny. Today it is a very gloomy day actually, but it's okay. We're here in the grow space and we're gonna work with some Phalaenopsis orchids because the situation has gotten out of hand. Now, I love the flower spikes of the Phalaenopsis being pendant. However, this year I kind of arranged a little shelf for them with these IKEA lamps, which worked out really good. There were, however, a few unexpected developments. One, some flower spikes actually grew towards the wall and are now growing like a vine on the wall, which is not okay because the flowers will not develop properly. This happens because the light bounces off the wall and it just happens that the wall is closer to the flower spike than the light. So we need to correct that because that right there can be a potentially ruined flower spike and we're not waiting a year for nothing. Also, you can see that the flower spikes are pretty straight, but then they're arching towards the light. And I did arrange my lights, as you can see, as far away as possible, but at this point it's getting a little out of hand and I would need to pretty much go down with the light and then it will interfere with the light down below. So I'm not entirely sure if the flowers will open nicely. Last year I had some issues with some flowers that faced the other way because yes, flowers face towards the light as well, not only flower spikes. So I want to improve the looks of my Phalaenopsis this year. And for this to happen, I think I need to stake the flower spikes, make them be a little bit more behaved, just so I have more space and I can work with the light better. With that said, first let's take a look at the flower spike that we actually shaped. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll link it down below. I have a video on how to actually shape flower spikes to create a cascade. So we're gonna work a little bit on that today because it is time to stake it permanently. So I'll get that one down and we'll take a look at the flower spike, see how it developed. So here's my little orchid. I first wanted to give you a sort of overall look because we're gonna focus on this part of the spike. If you watched the other video with shaping the flower spike, you know that we had a mobile string here. Well, it is now time to get rid of it. Up until now, as the flower spike grew, I kept moving it up and shaping the flower spike as I went. And also from place to place, I did pin the flower spike to maintain it straight. As the flower spike becomes more rigid, it is safer to actually use these sort of clips. I would advise against using them from the get-go when the flower spike is really tender. I had it happen to me. I had one of these things which was tinier and stronger than others, just clip into the flower spike. And it would be a shame to lose the flower spike over a clip. So yeah, it's not gonna look good for a little while, but I do suggest you use a tie until the flower spike becomes rigid and strong. And at this point, you can put all of the pins you want. Something bad will not always happen, but why risk it? At this point though, I can get rid of all of these and actually put some clips. So here's a little close-up. Let's see if I can untie this easily. If not, I'm just going to get a pair of scissors. And I can actually. So at this point, I can pin this spike right here because the buds have already started to form and this is where I want the arch to start. When the flowers will open, this will just fall under its own weight and create that beautiful arch. If we want the flowers to face in the same direction, we should just maintain the light in the same place and not switch it around too much, which I don't intend to do with this one. She's gonna go back to the exact same place. But now I can definitely put one of these clips onto the stake. And actually you can see I have another pin here. This is a rafia. So I need to cut that. Hold on. I need better scissors, better tools actually. Here we go. And I will remove this butterfly one because I don't have another one exactly like it. And I will place another one of these pins which looks identical to the one above it, just so I make everything match. Now, typically these little clamps come with the orchids you find in flower shops. I should have saved them, but I never used them until now. But definitely I will start saving them from now on because you can actually reuse them. Just spray them with a little alcohol to disinfect them and hey presto, you can reuse them with other orchids. Or you can actually buy these from a lot of stores, starting with hair stores to orchid stores actually. There are a lot of places that have these little things. Some of them are better quality than others, and in time, I guess these ones will just break. I think the plastic will become very brittle, but hey, they do the job. And for now, this orchid is set. What she will do now is continue to grow the flower spike and start to open the flowers, and with a bit of luck, hopefully we did a good job in not moving it around too much, and all of the flowers will face the same direction. This particular one is not the best hybrid to make a cascade with because she has a tendency to create buds wherever. Can you see that I have a bud on top here and one here and so on? Also, the flowers are not very large, so the cascade will not be super showy, but there are those white or pink big flowered Phalaenopsis. Those are the best ones for the cascade, but nevertheless, this one will look pretty as well. So if you want to train your spike like this, do check the description. I show you how to start shaping it, and we'll make another update when this orchid will bloom. Alright, so now let's actually take a look at the other orchids which already have big flower spikes. Alrighty, so I actually bought some plant stakes. With these stakes, I don't want to reuse them. It's really hard to properly disinfect them because they're bamboo and I cannot really boil them. If I do so, they will deteriorate really fast. Also, these are not the greatest of quality, so I cannot reuse them year to year, not even with the same orchid. But anyway, what to do? They were cheap. I have two sizes here, a shorter one and a longer one. So the first thing to do is just opening them up and seeing which one fits. To figure out which of these stakes is more appropriate, we need to take into account the level it will be buried into the pot. This is a self-watering pot. The inside pot doesn't really end here, just a few centimeters above. So let's say here, if we would use the stake, we would have it above the medium, about 25 centimeters. Will this be enough? It's actually cutting it close because even though this is where the first branch starts, it's not really where the last anchor should be placed. So in this case, I believe this one will make more sense, and if it's too long, we can snip it from the top. Now, depending on the quality of the stake, sometimes you will have a pointy tip at one of the ends. That pointy tip should go into the medium. Mine doesn't have such a thing, and actually it's really hard to insert something like this in leca particularly. In moss, it's a nightmare because it will just drag the moss with it. So what I need to do now is just cut the end and try to actually create a tip. So here are my pruners. This is not the correct tool to do this with, I know, but I don't have anything else at hand right now. I'm going to cut at an angle and hopefully it will cut one of the ends. It kinda worked. So I created a little bit of a tip here, which will help out quite a lot. So now I need to insert the stake as close to the spike as possible. In some cases it will not be possible, or it will be damaging to the orchid. In my case though, I can definitely insert it in between the leaves because this is actually a keiki. This is the orchid that came with a lot of oil on the top leaves. Do you remember it? Yeah, and this is a keiki, so I have a gap here in between the two plants. So this is where I can insert the stake. The stake is not inserted right at the edge. At the edge, you will have a lot of roots just circling the pot. If you cannot see the edge, don't put the stake right against the edge. If you have a transparent pot, you can obviously see if you can insert the stake. But if you don't see it, just go a little bit behind the edge and gently press it down. Oh, this was actually really easy. This means I did not encounter any root in the pot. That's great, I didn't damage anything. So at this point, because the flower spike is already rigid, I can go ahead and use directly these clips. So I do have a few saved, and at this point, I'm just going to gently pull on the flower spike and see if it actually wants to bend easily, and it does. If it really doesn't want to go very close to the stake, don't insist because you might actually break it or you might damage the orchid. This one is actually very flexible, so I can definitely put a pin here. And with this one, I will try to go further up. Okay, I think I will actually pin it right here. And still we have this part supported and we will have this part arching down, which is okay. I think we managed to support the orchid properly. And here's how she looks like for now, but when those flowers will open, trust me, it'll start to droop over under its own weight. And hopefully we're gonna have a really nice cascade. What to do with the top though, because this will create a nice cascade and this will just stick here and not look pretty. Well, we can absolutely cut it. I would cut it a few centimeters or an inch or two above the final clip. So I think here, And again, this is not the proper tool to do it with, but I don't have any other. And carefully snip it. When you cut it flush, it will typically work a lot easier than if you try to create an angle with something like this. A few more things before we move on. If you ever want to stake a flower spike, never put the clip on top of an existing eye. Sometimes those eyes can actually produce branches like you see in my case here. So put the clip above it or below it, better yet. And also don't stake secondary branches. They tend to be more flimsy and less robust as the main flower spike. Just stake the main flower spike and don't worry about the branches. They usually arrange themselves beautifully and they don't put a lot of pressure on the main spike. Now here we have a case in which the flower spike is a lot more rigid, a lot less flexible. This is one of those orchids that creates very big flowers, and it is actually a very big orchid, so the flower spike is rather robust as well. With this one, I would definitely not try to perfect it and make it perfectly straight, because you might actually break the flower spike. This one can be made straight if you start to stake it early, like you see in the video in the description. At this point, we're just gonna try to do the best we can and just secure it as much as possible to the stake. You can see it doesn't even want to go very close to the stake. It's okay, I'm not gonna force it. And here, as much as I would like this to work, it will not really work. So I'm just gonna stake it here. And this will be enough, actually. Let's move this one a little lower. Actually, no. So at this point, this is the best that I can do. 2 stakes will have to be enough. I would not try to put another stake here. It's already opposing it very badly, so I'm not gonna try to force it. This is the best we can do with this one. Don't try to force flower spikes. You will see on some orchids, the flower spikes will be a little bit more flexible. On others, they will be more rigid. Just try to make sure you are not damaging them. I have to say that's a bit satisfying. So I'll go ahead and stake most of my Phalaenopsis in this way. I don't actually have so many clips, I just use them for the purpose of this video. I'm just going to use my rafia or another thread and just tie them to the stakes. And I think it's time to end because there is some noise outside, which I don't think it's very enjoyable for you guys. So thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you found it interesting and useful. And again, check the description down below for additional links on shaping flower spikes. And you know the drill. Like or dislike this video below. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos, tutorials, Q&As, and other fun orchid subjects. And if you like YouTube to notify you whenever I upload a new video, just turn on notifications for my channel. In the description, you will find some details about my environment and other things that I use in my grow space. So check it out if you're interested. And with that said, I'll see you next time. Bye.